Hi, thanks for tuning in. This is the ASX and Sectors weekly chart analysis for the week ending 26th of July 2024. The first chart is the parent index, the S&P ASX 200 index, the XJO, and the highs of the range come through here. You see price has made a decent attempt to break out 3 weeks ago. There was some modest supply drawn out in response and prices come back. And this week, the market did come back. It's tested the breakout line for strength. Volume was increased and slightly above average. And on that volume, price has closed mid-bar and appears that buying support has been drawn out. That leaves this market well placed to push higher in response when trading conditions are favourable. The mid-cap sector, highs of the range are through here. You can see this market has not yet broken out. Price remains underneath the highs of the range. There's been an attempt to absorb supply here. You can see that perhaps some supply was drawn out on this bar, but this week's bar, spreads narrowed considerably, volume has increased. If this was all selling pressure, the market would have really stretched lower, but it didn't. Price has remained within the range of the previous bar, spread narrowed, buying support has come into this market. It is trailing behind the parent index, but buying support has emerged, and that will also leave this market well placed to issue a challenge to this highs of the range at some point in the future when trading conditions are favourable. This is the small ordinary sector, highs of the range through here. This market also has not broken out, so the parent index is certainly acting stronger than the previous two charts. This market's also seeing a little bit of absorption. Price remains within the range of this up bar. This market has traded below the previous bar's low though, so this market's a little weaker than the mid caps, but there is an attempt to absorb supply. So perhaps this market is more likely to test for supply early and then close as a slight up bar rather than really seriously issue a challenge to the overhead resistance, which would be the breakout level. So more than likely this market will test for supply early and not really attempt to push higher, at least not immediately. Next chart is the financial sector, easily the largest sector in the Australian Stock Exchange. You can see the market pulled back here, and since then price has really pushed higher with some intent period of bullish absorption here. Price then has broken out above that. There was a little bit of supply drawn out last week. The market did test for supply at least for some period of time last week in response. Still closed as an up bar. Now, volume was a bit above average here, a bit higher than you'd like. So there's either been a great deal of absorption taking place here, leaving the market well placed to push higher. There's certainly supply being drawn out for sure. So you'll see by the response just how strong this market is, but there has been supply drawn out and there's been a decent attempt to absorb it at this stage. This is the metals and mining subsector, which I use as a proxy for the miners in general. Lows of the range down here. You can see the market was threatening to break down last week, and generally there has been downside follow through, and you would call that as confirmation of a breakdown. But look at this bar. Spreads narrowed considerably, volumes increased to above average, the close is well off the week's lows. Buying has emerged for sure. Whether it's speculative or not is another thing, I guess. There's definitely been some buying support emerge, so you would stick with the fact that this is a potential breakdown but not a confirmed breakdown yet. See if the market can respond. This is the ASX gold sector. You can see prices pushed up, lows of the range here, complex lows, so double lows. The market did see some weakness, most likely in the underlying here, because volume was actually quite low, which suggests that selling pressure wasn't overwhelming, even though the close was poor. The market made some sort of attempt to push higher but failed and has pushed back below the breakout line. So you would expect an attempt to consolidate next week, and that would probably take place as a test for supply, at least initially, and to see how much supply is being drawn out. So it doesn't appear that supply was particularly strong on this bar, and this move lower is reflecting the movement in the price of gold itself and not necessarily the structure of the market. Volume was increased this week, so that's reflecting some profit taking and traders getting out of the market. I would be looking for an attempt to consolidate next week of some description. It may look like that. It could also look like that. Either way, I would expect the market to make a decent attempt to consolidate in response. This is the energy sector. This market's threatening to break down. You've got complex lows here, or double lows. The price has moved below that this week and closed below it, right at the last gasp lows. So price is threatening to break down. It hasn't done so yet. It certainly looks a little vulnerable though. This is the healthcare sector. You can see here's the lows of the range. A nice shakeout here. Price pushed up. You can see that the market's gapped over this level. Price is pushed up again and again, accelerated higher here. It did appear that some supply was drawn out last week. Spread narrowed considerably, volume increased. Volumes increased further this week. The market's made an attempt to push higher. It has closed as an up bar, but well off its highs. So supply appears to be drawn out up here, and it's as price has moved above the recent highs. Supply has been drawn out for sure. The market's making a pretty strong attempt to absorb that supply. So we'll just see which side is successful in the end. It certainly appears that the buyers are holding the upper hand because volumes increased considerably this week to above the average. Prices closed off its highs, but it did still close as an up bar. If the sellers were in charge here, you would have expected price to really dip lower, to push lower, more like this, and back underneath the breakout line. But it hasn't done that. It still closed as a slight up bar. The market's making a strong attempt to absorb the supply being drawn out. This is the industrial sector. You can see prices moved higher with a fair bit of intent more recently. Here, price started to see some supply drawn out. The telltale of the recent trading is here. The market had the opportunity to break down, but it didn't do so. It was reluctant to move lower. You can see this bar here was an absorption bar, spread narrowed considerably. This is like a shakeout bar. This bar here traded well within the range of the previous bar, spread narrowed considerably. Next bar was up, and price is right up to this level here now in response. So that's a pretty good effort. This level here is the target level once price moves clearly above this level. And if it was able to get above this level, it would be well placed to break out to new highs. At the moment, price has done a pretty good job here. It's moved up, sitting around this 7,000 level. I expect the market will probably test for supply early next week, something like this, as a consolidation. And if supply is found to be low, there'll be an attempt to push higher in response. And I expect the market will end up at this level here, and we'll once again just spend a little bit of time like this, consolidating before there's another attempt to move higher if trading conditions allow. Back to the parent index just quickly before we finish. It's pretty clear what's going on here. There's the highs of the range. Prices had made an attempt to break out. Drawn out a little supply, but it wasn't overwhelming. The market's come back, tested the breakout line for strength, and on an increase in volume, prices closed mid-bar, which suggests that buying support is present. And when trading conditions are favourable, this market looks well placed to make an attempt to push higher. Okay, thanks for your time. See you again next week. See ya.